Patrice Radio is here to spice your world and flavor your airwaves with quality content, always. You can access them via our YouTube handle at Patrice Radio Live. Do well to subscribe, like, and comment. Enjoy!
A better Nigeria, is it a myth, or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria? Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only reason for being an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju.
Evening and welcome to another interesting episode of Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. My name is Lois and I'm here in the studio with Joseph and Joanne.
Hi, Skiffy.
Afternoon. You're welcome. And of course, Dr. Reju, the Chief Resource Person of the Center for Transformational Leadership, CTL JOS. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Lois. Good to see you, Joseph and Joanne.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our topic today is reclaiming the African identity. Now, Africa had a life before colonization, but the present generation of Africa seems to know the post-colonization Africa only. The African identity has been thrown away in the name of civilization, and we see everything African to be inferior to that of the West. Our diverse cultures, numerous languages, community, life, and other core values are gradually losing relevance. Sir, what's your take on this?
That's a mouthful. Right? Well, you just painted the reality. It's the truth. Yeah, people are what they are taught, either formally or informally, and we learn more, in the informal sense. So there is a whole generation that they were never, taken through any kind of intentional orientation in terms of our history. So what is out there is that, for example, if you speak in your dialect, you are uncouth. If you greet in a certain way that is consistent, that is reflective of your culture, you are outdated. So that's really where we are. So I don't know how you guys want to proceed with this topic. So you've just described it, because we're losing everything in the name of, in the West they can talk about globalization, that the world has become smaller. But I think for Africa, we can't, if you talk about globalization, we're just sort of echoing what other people are saying. For us, it's actually westernization.
Who is to blame?
Well, maybe I'm to blame. Maybe I'm one of those that's supposed to be blamed, because have I been intentional in trying to ensure that people don't lose touch with their African identity? I know I've done a bit, but maybe I've not done enough, and it's true, we're losing it. It's true. Who's to blame? In Africa, maybe that will give me an opportunity to say something that's very African, because one of the things that is very unique with Africa is our, ingrained in our culture is the value of learning. And that's where we have a lot of African idioms, African sayings. So when you ask who is to blame, what merely came up in my head is an African saying that the fish starts getting rotten from the head.
Okay.
So once you say that tells you straight away that the head, the leader, parents are to blame. Parents, policymakers, they are to blame. Because where we sit here today in this studio, I don't think we should be, our educational system, for instance, should still be the way it is. Something should have sort of been tweaked to reflect really who we are.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
I went to check the history. I discovered that there was an Oba of Benin that was dethroned by the Western government, then the government of Britain, because he wasn't dancing to their tune. Now, I discovered that trend continued. Anywhere someone is beginning, a traditionalist is beginning to have a certain influence that is against the government of the day, they kind of upset the whole system. So I've been thinking about it and how every structure, everything that gives Africa identity, there's a shaking on the foundation.
Let me try and separate issues here. The way in colonial days, it's understandable if the colonial powers try to, exert authority over traditional rulers. That agenda is clearly stated because the strength then of what they are trying to, take over was the traditional system. So for them to be at loggerheads is quite understandable. But over the years, one of the casualties of the colonial era is our traditional system, right? But have we done anything to make sure that it has any kind of relevance? No, because today, the traditional system, I don't see where they really occupy in our political structure. They are, put it mildly, straight away. They don't have any role that they play. It's just sort of, maybe there is a ethnic crisis somewhere. The president calls them, the governor calls them and tell them, talk to your people. They don't have any kind of authority. Because pre-colonial days, they were the main authority. They're the one that collect, they own the land, they're the one that collect land, or they were the government.
Yes.
So, but I don't want, young people out there, anytime the elite seems to come out and it's as if they have a crisis, please don't queue behind any one of them. They are both your enemies. And that's what they are trying to do, is what they learned from the British. It's called divide and rule. Because you can't even imagine where this story will end. Ganduje and Sanusi will solve their problem at a time when Nigerians were killing each other in this country. There was a video that came out when Abacha and Abiola were laughing on the sofa. So Nigerians should be wise. It's the naivety. I just did a road trip, across this, the southern part of Nigeria. The level of neglect and poverty. No one who has ever been any kind of position of authority, should earn the respect of any Nigerian. So Nigerians shouldn't be deceived by, they do it all the time. So let's put that aside. And that to say that Obas, Obis, emirs, is not new in history, but it's understandable during, the colonial era. But today, who is really an Oba? What is the, what influence? Who owns the land? Is the political government, so the traditional system has been decimated. It's just ceremonial. They might wield some influence here and there if you have money, if you have, look at the Oni of Ife. He's able to do some social work or some community development. That's because of his own personal kind of money. Because Obas now, they're on payroll. Emirs are on payroll of the government, and he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So what we should be talking about is what role should the traditional system be playing, in our political, social kind of life, economic kind of life. Because at the time, if you farm, the Oba, the king in your, in that domain owns a certain percentage of your profit. But is that the same thing now? No.
Oh, okay, sir. So we know for sure that Africa is very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of African traditions, religion, tribes, and all. There's this saying that there's unity in diversity.
Okay.
So how much do you believe in that? And how has it really helped or destroyed Africa over the years?
I I've always believed that, that there is no unity if there is no diversity. If there's no diversity, all you have is uniformity. Unity only makes sense when there's diversity. So, but you'll be able to really maximize the benefit of that unity when you recognize the uniqueness of the diverse parts. So Africa is very rich in culture, which we know, and it's not just culture. I remember a few years ago I did a trip to the Caribbean islands, and they are very rich in terms of herbs. You guys, maybe I've told the story on this program before. There's a friend of mine, who is a sickler. There's a medication that he's using that works magic. That herb is found in Cross River State, but it is produced from California or Oklahoma. But the herb, so they took it from here, no royalty paid, nothing. So the last time I listened to an interview by the DG of NAFDAC, and they asked her what is the future of healthcare, and with a very broad smile on her face, she said she's actually now having a committee of herbalists and pharmaceutical, practitioners she's so hopeful. You see, for me, that's not new. When I was growing up, malaria was it was a monthly affair for me, right? And I react to any of this queen-based If I take tonic, there's this particular tonic, it itches me. The only thing I could take were the herbs, were the agbo, right? Dongoyaro, and all those kind of things, the bark of a mango tree, and all those kind of things. Fine. My brother, who is a medical doctor, will say it's dangerous because it's not regulated. Why can't we regulate it?
Yeah.
So with a glee on her face, with so much excitement, that there is a committee now that they are researching the herbs in Nigeria, right? The best, I think it's I don't know the name of the field where they do, they develop vaccines for viral, ailment, which is the guy is the best in the world, is a Nigerian, is a former chairman of INEC, Professor Iwu. If our story is that he had the cure, he got the cure of coronavirus even before he came out, right? Even before he came out, because it's been known to exist before it started afflicting humans. So, there's so much here, and that unity that you mentioned is to recognize the uniqueness of every part. There is no part of this country that is not rich in their own way. But you see, there has been this thing that we inherited from the colonial masters, that they just must force us together. That tragedy that happened in 1914, to Nigeria has been a major problem, because we have not been able to, so the different parts of this country, and take that further, the different parts of Africa, they've not been able to realize their full potential, so that we bring something to the table. Recently I was talking to I was having a class with a student of mine who is from Ethiopia, and I said, if we are going to prosper in Africa, we need to do proper both personal assessment of individual uniqueness, and then communal assessment of community uniqueness. Because each community in Africa, we have the potential to be so wealthy. I said, from where I sit in Nigeria and where he's sitting there in Addis, I can say that, that once Ethiopia comes to mind, what comes to your mind is coffee. Right? And I said that where I'm seated here also, we have coffee. I know someone in this city that we've spoken about before on this program. He exports coffee from the plateau. Export. And he says he can't meet his demands. That's how rich we are. But if you look at that business, what is the level of technology that's been deployed? How has that business, and I don't want to talk about support from government and all those kind of things, but because you can't talk about African culture without talking about the social, the economic, the cultural,
and the political
structure. All those things need to be put in that pot. So we still, if you, I think I give an example to you guys where we were off air maybe a few days ago, that if you are the most beautiful girl on campus, right? Or maybe you don't know you are the most beautiful girl on campus, but suddenly all the guys on campus are after you. Then it begins to tell you that, oh, maybe I'm the most beautiful girl on campus. Why was there a scramble for Africa? Why was Africa the most sought out, the bride,
the most attractive?
Everybody just want to cut this babe. There must be some, but it's as if those who don't live here, they know more than us, than we know about ourselves. And I've seen that across. Those who make money in Jos, for instance, don't live in Jos. Yeah, they just come, it's a hit and run. They don't live in Jos because we don't have responsible government who can say that if you are coming here to make money here, if I'm the governor of this state, right, and MTN makes billions of naira from this state every month, you are going to build me something. You are going to finish that stadium, right? You are going to build me maybe like an airport. You can't be making billions every month and it's just, the only thing you pay tax to the federal government. No way. You are using my space. There's something about my land. People come here for holidays. What kind of tax? How do we develop ASOP Falls?
Yeah.
Right? Those are the kind of, because you don't find that's our own uniqueness. How much does the weather here cost for those who come to enjoy it? Because you don't find it anywhere else. So these are the kind of thing, because this is a very huge topic, because maybe what we'll have done is to first of all put it on maybe language, put it on economic, put it on social, put it on costume and all those kind of things. To look at it on a very general level, you see, we'll just be hitting it from different parts, because the solution to the problems in Africa is that we must be able to develop African solutions to African problems. The problem in Nigeria can only be solved by Nigerian solution. Yeah.
Okay, sir, in line with what you just said now, talking about the cultures in Africa, very diverse, how should the cultures be evolving without losing relevance, and still maintaining our uniqueness?
Cultures are highly adaptive. For example, we're talking about the monarchy here. The most, when you talk of revenue head, that is the source of revenue, revenue generation for the United Kingdom is the monarchy. The Buckingham Palace is top 5, I think so. The last time I checked, I think it was top 3 of the most visited place on earth.
Wow.
Yeah, the Buckingham Palace. Now, that is how the monarchy is still relevant. Right? People just want to go and see, just behold the majesty, the beauty of that palace. There's no way you go past the place, there is traffic. And you need to look at how much that is bringing into the economy. The spread. That will feed the airline industry. It will feed the transportation industry locally. In fact, the whole tourism in London is built around the Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
When you ride on the train and you get to the stop that leads to the Buckingham Palace, it is announced that alight here for the Buckingham Palace. And you see how people will troop out and how people will troop in. So that is how monarchy, which is now in the UK just ceremonial, but it is still contributing huge, is still having huge economic effect. If you go to Addis, one of the places that you must visit, right, is the palace of I've forgotten the name of their king, the first king. I've forgotten the name, That's the place, and the whole thing has been so developed for tourism. So where is the emir, the emir's palace in Kano? What has been, how has that been built? Where is any kind of museum that can teach young people like you about the pyramids, the Granite Pyramid? Where is, those are the kind of things. So that particular culture can evolve. I'm not saying we should go back to monarchy system of government, But that system of government can still, remind us of our past and then shape, because really, when you look at it, we are still not far from the monarchy, right? We still live in someone said that Nigeria, we are not in democracy, we're in civil rule, right? Because the president is still an all in all. Nigerian president is still one of the most powerful presidents on earth that you can't even talk to anyhow. So we are still not far from it. But cultures are highly, for example, if you look at East Africa, they don't teach them in English until they're in high school. They teach them in Swahili. But we have not developed our own language. I gave an example on this program once that what is crankshaft in Hausa? What's what's crankshaft in Yoruba? What's crankshaft in Igbo? We have not developed that language to be able to communicate current things, right?
Sir, talking and speaking about languages, we have about 250 ethnic groups and about 371 tribes in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that our languages are under-resourced.
Yeah, they're becoming, it's almost non-existent.
Yes,
it's extinct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how can we save, these languages from being vanished?
There is no, I believe that in another 10 years, if we continue on this kind of trajectory, we're going to lose our languages. My own kids don't speak the dialect that I speak. Because if I teach them at home and they teach them in another language, in school, they'll be confused. And I have to be able to know what level. But because I have other things doing, not to teach language, right? Because those kind of things shouldn't be formal, So it's gonna. But there was a time in the history of mankind that the Hebrew language disappeared. It became extinct. One family started it again, just speaking it to the kids, and today it's a national language. If you go to South Africa, they have 11 official languages. 11 official. That the president can address the nation in any of those languages. Now,
he has to be able to speak all of them. Wow.
Yeah. Most of them do. You have the Swahili. No. Yeah, I think they speak Swahili. Do you have Afrikaans? They have what's the name of the one that Mandela speaks?
The Zulu.
There's Zulu. There's another one, Xhosa. Xhosa. So they have plenty of it. Now, the president might not have to speak all, but depending on. But you know that most of the leaders in Nigeria, they speak the 3 main languages.
Sure.
Yeah, because they were soldiers. I remember a time Babangida visited a particular town in the southwest. He spoke Yoruba to them. Obasanjo speaks Hausa, and I'm very sure he speaks Igbo too. So, but this is because it's very good for leaders to be very strong in terms of language. But you see, over the years we have sort of relegated our language. We're no longer proud of it. If you speak your dialect, people kind of look at you. Maybe some of you, if you're in school and your parents come to visit, you would not want them to speak your dialect to you where your friends are. True? That's it. You see, it's as simple as that. And I always give that example. When I go out of this country and I'm in a public transport, only Africans speak English to their children. Indians are speaking their dialect. Chinese are speaking their dialect. It's only Ghanaians, Nigerians. They don't just speak English, they want to speak it the British way. It has to be British. And when you speak in that British way, you are perceived to be intelligent. You are perceived to be civilized. So these are the things that, just like that one family started, right? Somebody also can start. Somebody also can start and say, I'm going to be speaking my dialect to this kind of person. But the thing is, Nigeria, again, it brings us back to the main problem. It's where do we draw the lines? where do we really draw the lines? If I start speaking Ijaw to my kids, right? How far will that go? How far will it go? You know, because Ijaw is just one drop in the ocean. Yeah, just one drop in the ocean. Because we must have a structure where we eliminate what we call minority.
True.
Yeah. For example, if we have a middle belt region, there's no minority.
Yeah.
There's no minority. If you have a middle belt region that contains the current Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, and maybe some parts of southern Kaduna. In fact, if you look at, say, which language is this? Idoma. They speak it across many states in this region.
Yeah.
I think they speak in Adamawa, they speak in Taraba, they speak it in Benue, right? And there's some Idomas too, I think in Nasarawa also.
Yeah.
Or maybe in Kogi. So you realize that there is the lines are already there, because nothing unites like language.
True.
You know, I was telling my European students that if you go to the market and you happen to speak the same language with the seller, you can get a discount. Yeah. And they were saying, wow. I said, yes, you can. Language is powerful. It's powerful. And that's what has been used to colonize is language.
Yeah.
Do you know how many countries speak English? Almost all countries in the world speak English.
Yeah.
It's gradually that you cannot interview the French president, the German president in English. Meanwhile, they understand it. They speak it fluently, flawless. It's the reaction to that imperialist kind of tendency that we want to have our own kind of identity. There was something I said during the reign of Goodluck Jonathan, that if I am Mrs. Jonathan's PA, Mrs. Jonathan will never speak English in public. She will speak in pidgin.
Wow.
Yes. If you interview her, if you give her an interview in English, she will have to reply you in pidgin. I will not allow her speak English. That's the way I'll package her. Because that's what happens everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You talk to the Iranian president in English, somebody will interpret to let you believe that he doesn't understand, right?
Yeah.
But he speaks. But he will reply you in the Iranian language. Right? So if you, like, many of them know this. For instance, the past governor of Ondo State, the past governor of Osun State, they removed Mr. from their title. They put it in their local language. Yeah. You know, he said it's not Mr. Aregbeshola, it's Ogbeni. That's what they say, that's how they call it. The one in Ondo State, you know, he said it's not Mr., it's Arakunri, that's a fellow brother. You know, so this people know how powerful these things are, because you lose yourself the moment you lose your heritage, your identity, your there's nothing else. So those kind of things, gradually people just sort of nibble on it and just shrink back, but it has to be consistent. But we can't get this until this country is restructured. We keep coming back there. Restructured to reflect our cultural identity, traditional identity, language identity. Imagine a governor coming to talk to the people. You know, when some politicians come here to campaign, or you go and campaign in Kaduna or Katsina, they speak in Hausa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Obasanjo, when he came, he spoke.
He spoke in Hausa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's where you can really connect. Yeah. Many of you seated here, maybe your own generation, you guys are millennials, maybe you dream in English. I don't dream in English. Maybe until recently. Yeah, because I speak English more now. When I was growing up, I don't dream in English. I dream in my dialect. Because that's where I can't fake, I can't form. I'm original. Yeah. I'm authentic in the dreamland. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. When you dream, what language do you dream in? What language is spoken in that dream? Right? Yeah. What language? You know? Few months ago, I dreamed and I saw my mom. She wasn't speaking English to me.
Of course.
She spoke the dialect to me. I saw my mom in my dream and she spoke the dialect to me. You know, that's the way you can connect. You know, there's a way you speak your language that you can't fake. Yeah, because the language has a move, it has a body posture, it has a, you know, there's a way you gesticulate and all that. we need to be deliberate about this. And if there's any kind of problem, like I said, the fish starts getting rotten from the head, but the body too should try and, cooperate with the head. If your parents want to now keep speaking this language to you, will you, it's even better here in the north. If you go down south, many of them don't speak Yoruba. You still are, maybe you are kind of bilingual or bi-dialectical, but they don't. They don't speak it at all. If you speak it, then they look at you as if, where are you coming from? Because they believe that's civilization. Yeah. You guys are better in the north. Because I know most of you speak Hausa, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but you don't speak your dialect.
We do.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
This is how much you can take on the program. Thank you so much for, coming to the studio today, sir. We are very grateful, and I'm really grateful for to you people, Joanne and Joseph. Thank you so much. We're going to meet again, same time, same station next week. Bye.
This is Patrick